Okay, so did you understand the story up to now? Okay, yes. So Mr. Sergey, he was so kind that he gave this beggar the work. Okay, what was the work? To cut the wood because it was Russia, it's very cold, so people need to keep stokes of wood to be what should I say used during the winter season. Okay, and now the beggar he decided to work for Mr. Sagai, and Mr. Sagai took him to his home. Now, first of all, Mr. Sagai called Olga. Now, you tell me who is Olga? Okay, now Olga was a lady who worked as a cook in Mr. Sergei's home. Now Mr. Sergei called the cook and told her to show the beggar the woodshed. Woodshed. So shed is the place where you store things. Okay, here in this particular shed, he used to keep the wood. Okay, yes. Now the beggar, he said that he did not have work. Mr. Sergei gave him the work to chop wood for him. Okay, and then he would earn some money. You got it? Okay, yes. Now you tell me, was the beggar ready to work, cut the wood? Okay, now let us try to look whether he was ready to do this work or not. Okay, yes. The scarecrow of the beggar shrugged his shoulder as if in perplexity. So perplexity means puzzle. He was puzzled. Okay, and he went irresolutely. So irresolutely means he hesitantly. He was not that much, what should I say, inclined to work. So he went after the cook who was, what should I say, showing him the cow shed. The wood shed. Okay, yes, and what should I say? He followed the cook, and what should I say? He was not that much inclined to work because we know that the beggar was very lazy and he did not like working, especially cutting wood. But now, why was he ready to? Why did he accept to cut the wood for Mr. Sagai? Was it because he was very hungry and he needed money? It seems no. Why? Because he had already told Mr. Sagai that he was ready to work. Now, because of this, he had to keep his own word. He said that he wanted work and he was ready to work. So that's why he could not say no. Because if he said no, then what should I say? It goes against his own will. Okay, it goes against his own word. So although he did not work, now he had to, because he had already promised Mr. Sagai that he was ready to work. So it was obvious too. On the other hand, it was obvious because he had already become very weak. Look at his strength. Okay, because of too much, what should I say, alcohol, and here vodka. So vodka means alcohol, which is found in Russia. So he used to take lots and lots of alcohol, and because of this, his strength had become so weak. So he was in a position not to be able to cut the wood. But he said he was ready to cut the wood for Mr. Sagai, and that he was unhealthy and did not feel the slightest inclination for the toil. So the toil means not an easy work, hard work, difficult work. So that is, cutting a wood is not easy. It is not everybody's cup of tea. You got it? So he was not that ready, but he had to. Why? Because he had already promised Mr. Sagai that he would cut wood for him. Did you understand? Okay, now after telling Olga to show the beggar the wood shed, Mr. Sagai went to his dining room, because from the dining room he could see everything from this place. Okay, and he saw the cook and the beggar going towards the woodshed. You got it? Okay, now in this paragraph, I just want you to read this and you just tell me what kind of image did you form about this Olga. The Olga is the lady who works as a cook in Mr. Sagai. It seems that Olga was not very kind. She was rude, Okay, you just try to, what should you say, underline some of the words which shows the character of Olga. Okay, oh yes. So she angrily banged the door. Okay, yes. And next, what did Mrs. Sagai do? Next, he saw the pseudo teacher. The pseudo teacher means, pseudo means the fake. Okay, he said that he was a teacher, and actually he was not a teacher. So what did the pseudo teacher do? Pseudo teacher, which was set himself on a log, okay, and became lost in the thought with his red cheek resting on his feet. No, he was hesitant to work. He was hesitant to cut the wood. Now, what did the lady Olga do? The woman flung down an axe at his feet. Okay, he gave the axe to the beggar, and then she said something angrily. Okay, now judging from the dining home, okay, the dining room, Mr. Sagai thought that she was, what should I say, scolding that beggar. Okay, yes. Now, what did the beggar do? The beggar resolutely means the beggar hesitantly pulled a billet of wood. A billet of means a huge piece of wood towards him. He set it in between his feet and tapped it feebly with the axe. He just started cutting the wood. Feebly means weakly, because he did not look strong. He was weak. Now, despite that, he was trying to cut, because he had already promised Mr. Sagai that he would cut wood for him. You got it? Okay. Now, that the beggar, now he started working. Mr. Sagai was looking from his dining hall. Okay, yes. Now the beggar, he was trying to cut, but he could not cut. He was not able to cut the wood properly, because it must be first time he is working. You got it? Okay, yes. So many times the billet which just fell and he could not properly cut. So, but he was trying. Okay. Now, Mr. Saga was looking at him from his dining hall, and now in the beginning he was very angry, because the beggar told him lie. Okay. But despite that, he gave him work to chop the wood, and now he felt very sad. He, what should I say, started feeling pity for this beggar. Why? Because he looked very weak, and despite that, he was asked to chop wood, isn't it? And then after that, Olga, the woman, the cook, she came and told Mr. Sagai that all the wood had been chopped by the beggar. Okay, yes. So Mr. Sagai told Olga to give him half a ruble. Okay, and not only that, yeah, Mr. Sagai was ready to give work if he was interested. So if he wants, he can come back and cut wood for the first day of each month. We can always find work for him. No, he was so kind. Okay, he said that if the beggar wanted, he would come again every first week of the month. Okay, and he would be given the work to cut the wood. Did you understand? So the beggar was able to earn half of ruble. You got it? Okay, yes. First day of the month. So as promised, the beggar always turned up. He made his appearance and he started cutting wood. Not only wood, he was given all sorts of work, like, what should I say, cleaning the snow, putting the wood aside in order, and he used to dress rug and medicines like that. Okay, so every time he used to earn 20 to 40 kopecks. Okay, yes, he was able to earn some money. And not only that, he also got a pair of old trousers and from Mr. Sagai. So everything was going on well. He was working. Okay, yes, Mr. Sagai was very happy. Okay, whenever there are some work, he always used to give this work to the beggar because the beggar did not have any work. Okay, so if he gave the beggar work, the beggar would get some money. Okay, yes. So there was a time when Mr. Saga was moving his house to another house. Okay, now during that time, Mr. Saga was kind enough to call the beggar, and he gave the beggar, which is the work like packing and hauling, moving the furnitures of his home. You got it? So by this time, the beggar had become a sober. Now he had stopped drinking, and he had, what should I say, he was looking good without any, what should I say, alcohol. Okay. Okay. Now after seeing a lot of change, after seeing a little transformation in the beggar, Mr. Saga was very happy. He thought that, what should I say, he had, what should have made the beggar fully reformed, transformed, isn't it? Okay. And he said, well, I'm happy that my words have taken effect, he said, handing him a ruble. And Mr. Saga gave him the money the beggar had earned. Okay, what was the, what should I say, the money? The money was the ruble. Okay, yes. In terms, what should I, in Indian terms, we call it rupees. Okay, yes. Here is for your pin. Now he had been working all the time, and now he was giving the money. I see you are sober and have no objection to work. Okay, what is your name? Okay, now Mr. Saga was very happy now. Okay, he was able to see the change in the beggar. He was taking this, what should I say, the ownership. He thought that he was responsible for this transformation in the beggar. And then he asked the name of the beggar, what was your name? And what was the name of the beggar? The name of the beggar was Lashkov. And he said, Lashkov. Okay. And then Mr. Saga said, well, Lashkov, I'm now after you. I'm now offer another, what should I say, cleaner employment. Mr. Saga said that he would give another work which was not a menial work, just a better than the menial work. Okay. And then he asked the beggar, can you write? And the beggar said, I can. The beggar said that he could write letters. Okay. And then it seems that Mr. Saga was going to give another work for this beggar because he was very happy to see the transformation in him. And what did he say? He said, take this letter to a friend of mine tomorrow and you will be given some copying to do. Work hard, don't drink, and remember what I have said to you. Goodbye. Okay, yes. Now before, what should I say, the beggar left Mr. Saga, Mr. Saga gave advice. What was the advice? Work hard, don't drink, and remember what I have said to you. And after saying this thing, what should I say, Mr. Saga said goodbye to the, which is the beggar, because from tomorrow onwards, the beggar would be getting a new job. Okay, yes. About to part, when these two people were about to part, okay, Mr. Saga was very glad that he did something good for this person. Okay, and he shook hand and said goodbye. And Lashkov took the letter, and from that day forth came no more to the yard for work. Okay, now Lashkov took the letter because this letter was to be given to a friend of Mr. Sagai. Okay, yes, and from that day onward, he never came back to the yard for work because, what should I say, he had already got a new job recommended by Mr. Sagai. Okay, did you understand? Do you see the change in the beggar? Who do you think was the responsible? Mr. Sagai gave him work, and every day he used to come to Mr. Saga's house and do all sort of work, and through that work he was able to earn some money for himself. You got it? And not only that, now he got, what should I say, a cleaner job. Okay, not just cutting and cleaning and washing like this, another job. Did you understand? Okay. After 2 years, Now this is the part which comes after 2 years. Okay, one evening, Mr. Sagai, he was standing at the ticket window at a theater paying for his seat. Now Mr. Sagai was there in the theater. He was buying a ticket for his seat, and suddenly he saw, okay, a man, a small man, similar to the beggar Lashkar, isn't it? And then he just looked at him carefully, and then he thought that yes, it was Lashkar, the which is the wood chopper. Okay, oh yes. So he thought, okay, and then he went towards him and he just cried, okay, Lashkar, is that you? How are you? How are you doing? How's everything with you? He was very glad that he recognized Lashkar. What was he doing? He was also in the line and buying a ticket for himself. Now you see, he had totally changed, and he had a very beautiful. He was also wearing not the rag clothes. He was wearing a good cloth this time. So look at him, and he said that he was all right, and he had got a new job, that is notary. So notary is the officer, the person who checks some documents like this. And he also told Mr. Sergov that he earned 35 rubles a month, which is a good amount, isn't it? And then Mr. Saga, he was very happy. Thank heaven. Okay, he was very happy to see. He also said that he was a godson. So godson means, normally the person to whom you help, like this. Okay, so the beggar had become the godson of Mr. Sagai. Mr. Sagai considered the beggar godson because he helped him and he changed that beggar. Okay, yes. And then he just talk about the past things. Okay, when the beggar first came to Mr. Sergov was very rude. He just did scolding. Roasting means scolding. And then he asked the beggar whether he remembered getting scolding from Mr. Saga and all. But he was very happy to see the beggar fully transformed, and he he also believed that it was Mr. Saga himself who was responsible for this great transformation in the beggar. Just a beggar, the person, he was a person who used to drink vodka, and he did not have any work, but now he had become a person who has got good job and who earns a good amount of salary, like this. Okay, yes. And then Mr. Sagar said, thank you, old man, for not forgetting my words. So you remember the words Mr. Sagai said to the beggar before he left? He told him, work hard, don't drink, keep my words. You got it? So he thought that he had already kept these words in his mind, because of which he had already transformed. Okay, so Mr. Saga was very happy. Okay, Lashkov had actually kept his words and not forgotten his word. He was very glad to see Lashkov, totally transformed. Okay, everybody would be feeling the same. Okay, if there is one naughty boy or bad person, and if that person becomes good, and if that person come to the right track because of your advice and because of your help, then you would be happy, isn't it? So same thing was going on Mr. Sagai. Okay, Love was also happy, and he said thank you. He thanked Sagai because it was Sagai who was responsible for all the changes that occurred in Lashkov's life, isn't it? Okay, yes. And then suddenly there was a twist in the story. You know, twist. Okay, yes. And what did Lashkov said? Lashkov said that he was not only grateful to Mr. Sagai, but he was also grateful to Olga. You know, Olga, Mr. Sargai's cook. Okay, and he said that Olga was responsible for all the changes that happened in Lashkov's life. Okay, so Mr. Sergei was surprised. Okay, everybody would be surprised. Okay, he thought that he was responsible. He was the only person responsible for this change. But here was this beggar who says that it was Olga who was also responsible. He said that it was Olga, the cook, who saved him. Okay, and then Mr. Sagar wanted to know how Olga saved him. Okay, he just said, "How is that?" Okay, and then Lashkov told everything about Olga. He said that Olga, when Lashkov first came to Sergei's house, Olga used to scold and she used to be very rude like this. Okay, so it was in the beginning, and later she was very concerned about the the beggar, isn't it? Used to understand, used to feel empathy, okay, for that the beggar, isn't it? Okay, yes, she had suffered and she had also cried. She had shed so many tears for his sake, okay, because she felt so pity, because the beggar was very big. There was no way he could cut all the woods like this, okay. And then suddenly the beggar, there was some kind of a twist in the story, you remember? So the beggar was able to earn lots and lots of money from Mr. Sargai because he chopped wood for Mr. Sargai. Now this beggar was saying that he did not chop a single stick for Mr. Sargai. You see? So the beggar said, "Do you know, sir, that I did not chop a single stick of wood for you? She did it all." Okay, so that was a new twist in the story. So till now, Mr. Sargai thought that he was doing a good job. He used to do all the job. Not only that, he cut wood for Mr. Sargai, and because of it, Mr. Sargai gave money to that beggar, isn't it? But here he was saying that he did not chop a single wood. So who did all these things? It was Olga, you know. She was very kind. She was very concerned about that beggar, and then she did everything for the beggar. You got it? Okay. So in the beginning, she looked very fearsome. She was not that much concerned about this, but actually she was very kind. Okay, and he said that because of the words and the noble deeds, a change had taken place in his heart. So in order to bring some change in the person, it is the word and the noble deed which could bring some change. Okay, so till now Mr. Saga had been believing that it was Mr. Saga himself that was responsible for this transformation in the Lashkar's life, but it was not. It was not. It was because of the Olga that a transformation came in Lashkov's life. You got it? So do you see a new twist in the story? Okay, so we had been believing that Lashkov was good at work. He had been cutting all the wood, okay, for Mr. Saga, and Mr. Saga also believed that he had been cutting the wood for him. Okay, but it was actually the the cook Olga who had been helping Lashkov get all this money. You got it? Okay, so Lashkov was very grateful, okay, to Olga. Because of Olga, he was able to develop some change in himself. He finally transformed. Did you understand? Okay, yes. Now Lashkov bowed and departed to the gallery. So finally, what did Lashkov do? Lashkov bowed his head and then departed to the gallery. So with this, we have come to the end of the story. I'm sure you have, what should I say, understood the story thoroughly. So this is the story written by, what should I say, Anton Chekhov, okay, a Russian short story writer, and he had so many stories like this. You got it? Okay, yes. Thank you.